Thank you for attending this session. I know that is maybe not as tech as others, but it's something that I'm very passionate about. So I'm very glad to be here. Hopefully more people will join. And I'm also happy to see some men in this session, because usually when I speak at these events, it's only women. So thank you so much. So my name is Giulia. I run a company, a social enterprise called Know the Brand Women. And our job is to champion women in business. So we work in a lot of industries. And tech is one of these, because tech is one of those industries where women are traditionally underrepresented. In fact, I don't think I need to tell you, but just in case you didn't know, there are not many women in tech. Now, this is the UK. Only 26% of the entire workforce is women, but actually this is higher than the average, because usually we are actually around 20%. And only 9% of graduates, women graduates, study a core STEM subject. Okay, only 9%, and that doesn't surprise us, because only 3% of women in the world says that they want a career in technology. And these numbers are actually shocking. I showed this presentation to a friend of mine who works in technology, a man, and he was like, "Are you sure about that? That's impossible." I'm like, "Yeah, pretty certain. You can check." And it's shocking, only 3% of women. But it is not shocking, because we're going to see in a second what happens at the very early age stage of our life, and that's the result of it. And another result is that only 5% of leadership position in technology are held by women. So not only we don't have women in tech, but even when we have women, we really struggle to get to the leadership position. And unfortunately, things can go even worse, because here I just took 3 articles. You can research more, but usually, not usually, but often women are questioned about their ability to be, proficient in tech. So the clients want to talk to their male counterpart, because, a man knows much better than women in tech. Or they get paid less. That's a massive problem. So this is an article where women left altogether a company because they discovered they were paid much less. Or it can get even worse. And I don't know how many of you know the Gamergate, but it was terrible stories of harassment against women developers in the game industry. So women definitely don't have it easy in the tech industry. And yet we need women. I was talking with one of the CEOs this morning, and he was saying, well, we're struggling to find talent in tech, regardless of the gender. Well, research tells us that only in Europe, but Europe, like in the rest of the world, if we actually were to take more women, we will solve the problem of technology, of talent in technology. There is so much potential that is not taken just because we are women. And you can train, you can retrain. There is so much we can do to close this gap, but we're just not looking at that. So companies don't look at women as a potential hire, and that's a problem. We also need women because we can solve problems. Like the dishwasher that my husband likes so much was invented by a woman. There were a lot of men trying to fix that problem, but they were trying to create something with a brush. She was the only one that came with the idea that actually we could use water. And why she did that? Because she was struggling with it. She was upset by it. And so she came up with a solution. And in the same way, we need women, and sorry for the men, don't get shocked, but you know what? We have a lot of problem with that. There is not been a big, massive invention in the industry of periods for so long. Why? Because we don't have enough women that can actually put their brain at work on a problem that affects all of us. So we need women. We need women for the women. We need the women for the washing machine and everything else that we invent that helps everybody. But we need women on any level of the organization. Because research also tells us that when we have women in different level of the organization, there is much more innovation overall. So if you are a tech company and you keep your women all at the bottom level, you're actually missing out an opportunity. And we also know that when companies have more leadership, female leadership, they can generate 34% of their revenue in innovative products. They have a return of 10.1% on equity versus 7.4 when they don't have women. And actually, women even have an impact on the footprint of the company and environment. That is because we tend to be attracted by subject and research that is more, for the society and the environment. So society needs us. Society needs women in tech, and needs women not just in tech, but also at leadership positions. So why? Why we don't have women? Are we lazy? We don't like it? What's the problem? Now, we are going to try something very technological here, I don't know. And we're going to do a poll, see if it works. Apparently, I'm the first one to try this. So. Is activating it. Otherwise, we are so little that we can actually do. We have it. So everybody knows how to go and choose their poll. How many people have problem with the poll? 3. All right, if the majority can go, we can just say, anyway, we'll go through it in a second. I'm going to explain all the different oops, open. See if this works. Now I'm going to need to try to work it on my side. Okay, wow, it does work. Can you guys see? Yay. Okay, I'll give you a few more minutes and then a few more seconds and then we go through it. So the options are, I cannot read that. The options are lack of self-confidence, lack of role models, gender bias, microaggression, pay gap, bro culture, and I think it doesn't get displayed. Who's other? Okay. Okay, lack of role model seems to take the lead. Gender bias afterwards. Unpaid care work, that was it. And lack of self-confidence. Okay. So these are things that you either have experienced or you have seen women struggling with. And all of these are true, by the way. None of this is something that doesn't exist and the women don't face. But I'm going to explain you in a second how we can look at this problem, splitting the different challenges in 2 big categories. But before I do that, is anybody wants to tell me what they voted and why? Anyone is brave enough? Or yes, go. So I repeat for everybody. Sorry, your name is? Sorry. Martinez? So the experience that Martinez just shared with us, and I think is quite common, is that we don't have role models, right? So when she was growing up, the boys and girls were split. She learned to bake amazing cakes while the boys were having fun building things. Now, there is nothing against the cakes. I love baking cakes, but I experienced exactly the same. In sport was the same. The girls had to learn how to dance and the boys were playing football. How is that? Who I'm going to dance with anyway, if they don't learn it? But it's always been like this. And if we don't see role models, how can we imagine to be there if we don't even, that's a problem. I was interviewing a lady in rugby, actually, and she said growing up there were not female ladies in rugby. How can you imagine yourself to be there if you can't even see it? Anyone else wants to share something? It's your fault. I think you touched on so many other things, and I'm going to go through more systematically, but just to answer to yours. There is one thing, the temperature in the offices, they are actually set. There is a beautiful book that explains this, for the average man. So the average man tends to be bigger than us and with a little bit more fat than us, or muscles. So that's why we are always freezing and they are not. Now, this is a conversation I have with my friends because they're like, well, why I should be sweating? At least you can cover yourself, and why should I be sweating? So I'm not taking side there, but I can tell you that I used to live in Singapore, and temperature was set at 19 degrees, which is freezing, by the way, when you're sitting. And if you just raise the temperature of 0.5, let alone women and men, the impact on the environment will be significant. So maybe let's just look at what is the impact on the environment rather than women or men. And then the other thing you said, when you say something, the man said it and it's way more valuable. That doesn't happen in tech only, trust me. Used to work in marketing, it's the same thing. Like, you don't have brilliant ideas. But it's the way we are socialized, and that's something very important. I don't want any man feeling here that I have any problem with men. I'm asked that so many times. People ask me, why do you do what you do? Do you have anything against men? Let's make clear, I have 3 boys and a husband. I have nothing against men. But the reality is that we are facing this discrimination. It is a thing, and then affects our confidence. This actually fall under the category of microaggression. Does anybody know what a microaggression is? Yeah? You want to share with, because sometimes people confuse that with harassment, which is very different things. Anybody wants to share what it is? I'll say it. So microaggression is one, basically, is the things that's said to you all the time. They affect, at the end of the day, they make you feel less confident about yourself. It's like people say, oh, you're not a typical superficial Italian woman. Thank you. Or things like, how can you manage your career and your family? When men are never asked that. Or when you enter in a room and you're the only woman, they're like, hey, darling, can you take the notes, please? What that does is makes us always feel like doubting ourselves. It's like, why should I not be able to manage my family and my career? Why am I the one taking the notes? Why are Italian women superficial? It's all these kind of things. All of a sudden, you hear it all the time. And eventually, you kind of believe it. Or you fight it. But then when you fight it for yourself, and we're going to talk about it in a second, then you become, obviously you don't do it in the best of ways because you're attacked, and so you're defending yourself. And it would be best if someone else would do it for us because, you can't always fight for yourself. If I go back to my presentation, actually what we have been told, the research tells us, oops, that's nothing to do with what I want to show you. Is that actually women are driven out of tech sector due to burnout, which is common across, as I said, I work in many industries. This is common kind of across all industries. Gender biases, that's, again, quite common. But there is a bro culture into the tech industry that's very specific of the tech industry. That's something that, as much as the men in other industry tend to get together and stuff, what happens in the tech industry tends to be more toxic and something that needs to be addressed. And oftentimes, people that do that don't even realize it. It's not that they do it with intention of kicking other people out. It's just that we tend to be with the people we like, that are usually people like us, and then we tend to be a bit more, everybody does that. So we need to be aware of it. And that's why the problem we have, because not only we don't get women in tech, even when women start in tech, then they drop off. Because it's so hard to be there. Because if every time I have an idea, I have to wait for someone to say the same thing to get it through, there might be a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm just going to take a job somewhere else and do something else. So that's the problem we have in tech. Now, as I said before, in my experience working in different sectors, we can divide the barriers that women face in between external and internal. The external are gender bias. Now, I think everybody knows what that is, but we talk about affinity, proximity, confirmation. So sometimes, like I love the confirmation because we have in our mind something, and then one person does that, and we're like, told you, see? She doesn't know, she's not expert. We really need to be careful with the confirmation one, because basically we're just trying to prove that we are right. Because biases, you probably know, is just we all do it. It's the way we learn that an apple, as on a drawing, is the same thing as a real apple. It's the same process. So we see two things. They're not exactly the same, but we learn to recognize they are the same thing. So it's a natural shortcut our brain takes. Now, how do we use this shortcut? That's where the problem lies. And that's where we need to catch ourselves. But don't think that women don't have, biases. We actually have the same exact biases. It's proven that a lot of time when there is a hiring process, the women, even if they are in the room, they have the same biases as the men for a specific job, okay? It's unconscious. It's completely unconscious. Most of the time, biases are unconscious. I am helping one of my clients that are doing a test, and they put the whole questionnaire for the people, and the questionnaire says, I believe that people should be discriminated based on race, gender, and I'm like, who you think expecting to answer, yes, I totally believe it, women out, men, the black out. Nobody will answer that. We not intentionally believe that people should discriminated. Thank you very much. What we do, though, is that we like the people that we like. Is that what I said before? Even when we write a job description, what do? We write a job description with our mind, with the person we want in mind. And that person most likely is like us. I realized that because I come from a bit of a tough background and I had to really work hard to arrive where I am now. When I am hiring, I'm always looking for the person that has worked hard and, that come from, that is a bias. Basically, I'm not giving the same chance to someone that just because they, they luck to be born rich and going to the best school. That's a bias. It's not any better. Okay, so when we do this, we need to catch ourselves. Am I doing this because it's the right thing, or is because in my mind and that's what I want? The lack of role models is what we discussed before, is a massive issue, and we're going to show you something in a second. External responsibilities. That's the problem that women face a lot. So we naturally are tasked with the kids, the elderly parents, even the pets. It's always falls on us. And that's why the burnout, I said, is across all industries. It's not just a tech problem. Because we generally end up having to look after more things. And that is a societal problem. But also, companies can do this. Like I know in this conference, there is a room for children. So if I had my children, I could have brought them here. I didn't have to juggle, where do I put the kids? And those I want to go to work. So while the society needs to change, companies can change, can make it easier, can give flexibility at work. So that if my children are sick, I don't have to take either an expensive nanny that will cost me more than to go to work, or take a day off, and so the family cannot go on holidays next year because I've taken too many with 3 children sick, 3 children. You know how many sick days I have per year? I'm not gonna go on holidays ever. So unfortunately, as I said, it's a societal problem, but it's also companies can lead the way. Yes. Sorry, I was gonna get there, and you're absolutely right. And that is very important, and that's why, for instance, parents' leave. So we don't call it, first of all, we should not call it anymore paternity leave and maternity leave. It should be just called parents' leave. You're absolutely right. What happens in the countries, because I know there are people from the US here, so in the countries where we have paternity or maternity leave, usually is the maternity leave is the big chunk, so the mom gets it, and the father gets like, what, 2 weeks? At least in Luxembourg, where I live, it takes 2 weeks, and everybody's celebrating that. I'm not exactly sure how much would have helped me having my husband at home for 2 weeks. Not much, to be honest, because the child is a baby for much longer than that. But my friends that they have companies that do offer paternity leave, told me that their career was destroyed after that. Okay? Because a man that takes paternity leave, you kidding me? You're not committed. You don't really want to work. You put your family first. Yes. That happens to women as well, but affects men much more. 1 second. So there is a country like Sweden, where they actually make mandatory. So they give 1 year to the family, okay, of parental leave. And 6 months go to the woman, and 6 months go to the man. If the man doesn't take the paternity leave, those 6 months are forfeited. Nobody gets the 6 months. The woman cannot stretch it to 1 year. So what that makes that everybody obviously is taking 6 months. And so there is no stigma anymore. And so men are going to take the leaves. And that, if you look at those countries, they're so much ahead because there is no more exactly what you were saying. There is no more is my wife's responsibility, is our responsibility. The child is sick. Who is going to stay home? Between the two of us. And if companies provide childcare and everything, it doesn't need to be the mom companies that does that. It can be the father's company. So you're absolutely right, spot on. Thank you for calling me on this. Mm. I'm reading a beautiful book called The Four Boys. Boys as a boy, when when you go on the boat and there are those things floating. Boys. It's an Italian book because there was a lady that said that she takes women only after they pass the fourth boy. First, when they get married, because they're gonna get pregnant. Then, when they're pregnant, they have children. And then there is the raising the children, and then there is the menopause. So when the women finish the menopause, she's starting hiring them. That was said in an interview. There's been a bit of backlash, obviously. That's the book is the story of all the people that are fighting this. But it is true. Like, we face all of this. It is a fact. And it's up to society to stop this. Because, yes, women might go into maternity, but I personally learned so much when I was in maternity. I think every mom here can say that the multitasking and the organizational skills that we developed just because we are out of the workforce for 6 months, 9 months, whatever. I didn't, but everybody takes whatever they want. It doesn't mean that we are not useful anymore. And a lot of companies are realizing this and are even hiring women that are pregnant, knowing that are pregnant. Before, you will hide it or you will just refuse the job, right? When you're pregnant, there is a change. Companies are realizing that it doesn't matter if you're away for a short while. We come back even more determined, so. But it is a problem. It is a problem. I remember when I was 30 and I changed job, people are looking at me like, "You're married in 30? You don't have children yet?" So it is a problem. Other things that affect us is, I don't even need to tell this, harassment. I hope none of you has experienced, but apparently pretty much every woman at work has experienced harassment at some point or another. Gender pay gap, pretty annoying, if you ask me. as my husband put it, I don't understand why my wife works as much as me and she gets paid less. Our family will be much richer. It's no brainer. Microaggressions, we talked about that before. The other one that I love, thankless tasks. So when you're given all of those silly jobs that don't bring anything to your career, like organize the Christmas party. Now, if you're in a small company and you're a woman, chances are that's your job. In the meantime, your male counterpart have the chance to work on really exciting project or very difficult project or any other project. And at the end of the year, when you go and you say, okay, you have your review, it's like, oh, but you have just done your job. John, on the other hand, has, done this project and that's really brought your money in the company. And you're like, yeah, but I was doing have you ever organized a Christmas party? I did. It's pretty tough. So these are what we call the thankless task, the one that don't get recognized. And even worse, a lot of time, and that's for minorities and women, we are given to look after the D&I, diversity and inclusion, or all of that, and then it doesn't come into your, at the end of the year, how you perform, so your performance review. So it's dangerous, and companies need to take note of this. We talk about the bro culture, and another one that I love is the over-optimistic perception of gender inclusion. I don't have problem in my company because I have women in my company. Brilliant. What do? How much they progress in their career? How many women you have in the leadership? So there is a lot of misperception about the reality of inclusion in companies. But we also have internal barriers. I lost my time, but anyway. The internal barriers, that we need to be very careful with this. So a disclaimer. Whatever I'm saying now, I'm not saying that women needs to fix themselves, okay? If any of you has ever read the book Lean In, is a very dangerous book because basically says that women should lean towards, what the men do, and it's us that we don't do it right. I'm not saying this, okay? This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that objectively, there are some things happen internally to us that prevents us to be where we want to be. But that is also because the way we are raised. So it's not that we are just crazy and we have the imposter syndrome and the men don't have it. No, we both have it, more men and women. But it does affect us in a different way, okay? It stops us more likely to stop a man. We have a lot of self-doubt, the non-duty expectation, and please everybody. It's like we feel that we have to do it. You feel that someone asks you to take note. You can't say no. Why? Because they just ask me if I will be the naughty one if I don't say, the one that doesn't collaborate, the one that doesn't. So you kind of put on yourself to accept things that you know you don't want to do it, but you're going to do it anyway because, that's the way we think we should do it. There is a lot of fear of standing up in front of people. I'm often asked to participate in events because I'm the only one that stand up and speak up. So in this, I would really recommend any woman to find the courage, train yourself to speak up because it's an opportunity to get heard. It's an opportunity to develop your personal brand. You were talking before. There was an interesting presentation before on speaking in public. We need to learn to stand up for ourselves and to stand up in front of other people. Okay? Now, the fear of failure, I would really encourage you, if you have time, it takes 10 minutes. There is a beautiful TED Talks on boys are raised to be brave and women are raised to be perfect. It's really interesting. It's written by a coder, so it's really on tech. And actually, she explained how coding helps with this because when you code, you make a mistake, and you just start again. Everybody makes mistakes, and you need to start again. And it really helps to take down this idea that we have to be perfect. But when we are young, your brothers will climb on the tree and fall down and get all dirty and stuff, and that will be fine. And you were in the kitchen making the cakes and helping mommy, and so that brings us to an age when we grow up where we feel that we can't take risk, because if we take risk and if we fail, we will be really put down. And that's something we need to change within ourselves. But it's difficult, because it's easy to say, Like recently, I made some mistake at work, and I'm always being saying, don't be afraid. The worst thing worse, something goes wrong, you fix it. And then it happened to me, and I was like, but I try to remind to myself that doesn't define me as a person. It's just something that went wrong. It doesn't define me as Julia. It's just something that went wrong, and I will have to fix it now. But it's okay. I'm still alive. You see, nobody died, so it's good. I'm not a doctor. If I was a doctor, I would be more careful. The overthinking, I think I don't have to tell you, but yeah, we do tend to overthink a bit things. That happens. But it happens, why? Because we have so many things happening to us. It's not that, again, we are not stupid and we're like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. Let me think about it 10 minutes more than another person. We do it because we have so much pressure that comes from outside and we don't know where to go and we start overthinking things and make our life more complicated. And then there is the self-limiting beliefs. Again, if you have the chance, look up at this, because you will discover, men have it as well. Don't think we all have, it's something in our mind that tells us we cannot do it. But again, for some reason, it seems to affect us more than affect men. So there is a lot of resources about that. I really encourage you to go and look and try to understand what are your own self-limiting beliefs, where they come from, and what you can do to fix them, okay? They will always be there, but how can we navigate them and move over? So what can we do? So I was talking with the lovely CEO of anyways, so the CEO today, and he's like, you know what, when I go talk to university, it's already too late. There is not enough women in a university. They want to take STEM related. And of course it's that. So I wish that when I was growing up, I would know what Margaret Hamilton is. I didn't know who she was, no idea. But she is the person that developed the Apollo program, and she actually handwritten the entire pile of documents there. That thingy, she handwritten and wrote it. But we don't know her, right? I actually subscribe because what I do on Facebook. There is a history of women, and you find all of these pictures of women that have been incredible in science, in whatever they've done, but we don't know about it. Instead, I go to buy presents for the children of my friends, and they have girls and boys, and I'm a bit partial to tech, as you probably guessed, or this STEM in general. And so I decide to buy boxes of these boxes, exactly this brand, name and shame. And in all of the boxes, there are only boys. And oh, come on, there must be someone with a girl on it, because I'm giving to a girl. If she just says the boys, she thinks I bought it for her brother, not for her. Yeah. And when I finally find the one with the girls, is a lipstick. So the brand is called I'm a Genius Science. And for the girls, what do we give them? Lipstick. Now, I don't have anything against it. I wear lipstick. There was also nail polish, if you're looking for it. I have nothing against that. But what is the message we're giving to the girls today and to the boys? Because my boys were with me when I buy these presents. And I was just going through all of the boxes. What messages are we saying? Do you know, and this is true, again, research, so it's not me making it up, that up until the age of 5, if you show to girls and to boys a picture of a man or a woman, and you say, who is the cleverest, with no other information, the girls choose the woman and the boys choose the man. By the age they go to school, if you ask the same question, both boys and girls choose the man as the most clever. Because they grew up seeing this. Because they grew up, the men are better than us at math. Because they grew up seeing that the doctor is a man and the nurse is a woman. Nothing against doctor, nurses or anything, but my kids' school was amazing. I used to live in the UK until 2 years ago. And it was amazing. The head teacher was a man, the deputy head teacher was a man, the teachers were all women. What are we saying? The school was amazing, but I was working with them. I was like, but you guys need to split. You need to go you can't have the two head most important people of the school being men, because what message it gives to the children? The men are better than women. And this is something we need to change now. I work a lot with technology, and there is Girls in Tech. You probably know the company, the association Girls in Tech, which is amazing. So we partner with them, and there is another one in Luxembourg, again, for children in tech. And they say that when they go and show like robots to the children, both girls and boys get excited about it. And then you hear the parents say, yeah, but that's not for girls. If the parents say that, if the teachers say that, if television says this and what we buy, how are we going to change the world? We're never going to change it. So it starts from us, all of us, like rejecting these products. It starts from us talking to our children in a way that they learn that women, boys and girls can do the same thing. We are different. We are not the same. Nobody says that women and men are the same. But that's the beauty, is the diversity we bring, right? So it starts from us. Oopsie. Then, when you grow up and we go to work, there is a lot of things that companies can do, okay? So when we're recruiting female talent, I love it when they say, there is no women. I would love to hire a woman, but there is no women. Women don't exist. For the records, we are 51% of the population, so somewhere we might be there. And I had one guy that came to me and said, you need to find me women. I'm like, wow, okay, I'm not a recruitment agency, first of all. And he was really barking at me and telling me how my company was not fulfilling what he wanted. My company champions in gender inclusion. I don't recruit women, okay? And he was barking at me, and I look at him, and I said to him, maybe it's the culture in your company that is a problem. Because someone that talks like this to someone else is not an inclusive company. And I don't think many women would like to work for you. I've never seen him again. I don't know why. But it's true. And that's why we do employer branding, to create an inclusive culture. Use gender-neutral tone of voice. So if you are trying to attract, this is for everybody, I can listen to me, but if you do an advertising for a job, don't say we want strong leadership. We want, all those attributes that are traditionally male, because a woman will read it and be like, I'm not like this. I'm not that kind of person. So they won't apply for it. Gender neutral, not saying you have to go on the other opposite spectrum, but just trying to find something, what are you really looking for? And trying to use a language that resonates to us, because we are different, okay? Expand your social and professional networks, that's also the problem. So all the people here, you have your own friends, and that's where you go, and the companies where they hire, and it's always the same circles. So it's time to trying to branch out and push, and also because there is a lot of interest from people who want to switch careers. So don't limit a person that has to have 100% of the job description, right? We want to see potential, choose potential over what there is already in the curriculum. There are a lot of women-focused recruitment platforms. Honestly, just Google it. If you really want to find a woman, there is plenty. They focus only on women. So if you really want to find a woman, it's not that difficult. Just Google it, okay? Employers' referrals. Now, this is an interesting one because there's a double sword, so you need to manage it properly. The problem with employer referrals, so I get my friends to work with me, right? Is that obviously, if you're a male-dominating company, men will call their friends, which tend to be men, okay? But if you actually encourage minorities and women to, not everybody can do it, but just activate, tell to women, are you happy to work in our company? Please go and tell your friends. So really actively talk to the minorities and the women and say, go out and promote our company. Everybody, regardless the gender or anything, will get whatever they get as a referral, reward. But instead of just saying it out there, actually go to the minorities and women and say, please go and trying to find people, your friends. If you are happy with us, bring your friends with us. There is a problem, you see, with women and minorities. Because when there are referral programs, usually are the white men that do that. Why? Because if we get someone in and that person doesn't perform, you are kind of liable. Now, if you're already a minority or a woman, that is double the weight. So that's why referral programs usually don't work. But if you are really interested in getting more women, You can do it in a way and relax people and say, look, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You're just trying. It's fine. There is not going to be consequences. So if you're really serious about employing more women, it does. Research tells us. All of this is based on research. It's not me saying it. That actually works. Ensure a fair recruitment process. You will say, well, that's obvious. It's not that obvious. You know? I went to interviews where they told me, oh, but your husband works, so why do you want to work? Like, it's not that easy. You need to train your people to be fair. And a lot of time, the people get to do the interview are actually not prepared to do interview. When I started hiring in the companies where I was working, I didn't know the least thing about recruitment. Okay. I didn't know anything. And they just put me there and I had to choose between candidates. I didn't even know what I was looking at. I like you. Yeah, I think you're nice. I didn't know. So it's important companies train the people that go into interviews and they ensure that the entire process, from the moment, from the moment people apply to the interviews and everything. Do you know that there is a thing it's like covering the names? So not showing the name, because for women and especially for minorities, the name is a problem. Because if it sounds like a certain, from a certain backgrounds, people, biases, unintentional, we don't do it because I will say I will never hire a black person. But when they see the CV that clearly says where the person comes from, you're like, oh, I prefer this one, the other one. I don't know why. So do things like hiding the names, obviously not pictures. All of that is a way to ensure that it's a fairer process. Offer benefit that matters. So not everybody wants money and careers. So speak with people and see what they want. Speak with your people, find out what matters to them. And then use influencer advocates. So I was talking with the lady. I don't find that anymore. But where is the lady I was talking with before? Anyway, there you are. And she was talking so convincingly about her company, how much inclusive it is, and how much you want to she enjoy being part of that company. I said to her, if I wasn't running my company, I would apply. Like honestly, honest truth. But why? Because it's a company that has the right employer brand, because they care about their employees, because they give the benefits that people want. So they're ticking all of these boxes. So if you don't believe me, believe her. Just let me see. Okay, very quickly. Okay, so retaining talent is the other problem we said about before that, and this really annoys me. 70% of women in tech still feel that they need to work harder. If you are a woman that made it, can you do me a favor and don't recommend to all the young women that they need to work harder than the men? Because that's what happens all the time. I have a podcast, and one of the interviews, I take down the interview because I cannot stand it. Why we recommend to young women, but remember, you're going to work harder because you need to prove yourself. Oh, thank you. So we're going to perpetuate this. And I was listening to a webinar on women in finance yesterday, and the ladies were saying the same. I'm like, stop saying this. If we say this, who is going to change it? So no, we don't need to work harder. We need to just work fine, just prove it like just everyone else. So almost finished. Macro solutions, creating inclusive culture. I don't know how many of you are familiar with an EVP, the employee value proposition. Come and find me if you want to know more about it, or just Google it. It's about really the culture of the company. One is the loneliest number. So don't get one woman in a room and then expect she's going to change the world, because it's not a nice place to be when you're the only one. I mean, you can fight, but it's pretty lonely. So maybe get 2 or 3, and that is going to change things. Mentorship programs are massively important. Give women mentors, and not just women mentors for women. I have mentors. I have women mentors and male mentors, and I mentor women and men. Because we are diverse. It's what we said before, right? So we can learn from each other, but we need to be given the chance to grow. And mentorship programs really make a difference. And also sponsor. I didn't put there. But if you are in the position of sponsoring someone, that you're a man or a woman, please find someone to sponsor, particularly from a minority or women, because it really makes a difference. Gender equality education, there are a lot of programs you can run for your company. Just don't think that because you're doing a training, that will fix anything. One training alone doesn't change anything. It's a good, my company offers training, but we do it as part of a much bigger, solution, because otherwise it's just like a ticking box exercise, which is the refuse pinkwashing. So, I hate the 8th of March, for instance, because I think everybody now is jumping on it and say, we're doing something for women, and then nothing has changed. So I refuse pinkwashing. Flexible work is another solution for men and for women, taking the point. Now, for me, the most important, though, is the micro solution. One, say no to greedy jobs. I don't know how many people know what a greedy jobs is, but effectively it's those jobs where you have to work 5 zillion hours per day, and then it's more. Like I remember when I was heavily pregnant, and my boss came, and she said to me, "Oh, go home." I was pregnant many years ago, so there was a lot of paper. And she's like, "Go home, don't stay long." And she put this pile of documents on my desk, and I look at her, I'm like, how? Like, if you want me to finish this, how can I go home not late today? We were working until 1 o'clock at night at the time. So as an average. So say as a manager, say no. Nobody's gonna die if that pile of job work is not done tonight. It's gonna be made tomorrow morning. Nothing is gonna change. Spot the misogynist. If someone says something wrong, stand up, because it's much easier for you to stand up for someone else than for the person that is receiving end. If someone says something to me and I'm like, that's not kind, people are like, oh, come on, it was just a joke, or you're so sensitive. But if someone else says it, I don't know. Okay, you think I haven't said that? Really? And nobody stood up for you. I don't need to say anything else. So please stand up for other people. Thank you for sharing this. And then the last thing I want to say is spot the potential. So don't hire or take people just because they're fitting perfectly the job description you have in your mind, but for what they can bring. I think I made it on time. Oh, this is already said day before. And track at the end of it. So when you've done everything that was written in those slides, track, because there is no, if you talk, but if you don't look at the results, you'll never know. So these are some of the things you want to track. And on that, I think I finished on time. I have 3 minutes more. Oh, cool. Oh, that was finished anyway. Any question? Silence. Well, then we finished on time. But yeah, thank you very much. Oh, yeah, good. It's very difficult. Yeah. So there are 2 things. One, we work on personal branding, for instance. And so what you do in the personal branding, you decide who is your audience. So you need to define your audience and then understand that audience and understand what's the best way to communicate with that audience. That's part of what we do. As a humor goes a long way, okay? So I try to cut, always have a little joke when people are like, but I'm most of the time. But you can also live to that. So I was at an event recently, and a man thought it was a great idea to put his hand on my bum in front of everybody. Yeah, it was lovely. Friend of my husband on top of that. Brilliant. And I didn't know what to do, because I said, if I scream, the guy's gonna say, oh, I didn't know anything, or whoa, you're so sensitive. If I don't do anything, the guy thinks that I'm, open, and next time it's going to be even worse. So what I've done in that case, I smile at him, get close to his ears, and I said to him, this is never going to happen again, ever. And I look at him in the eyes, and it didn't happen ever again. And now he's actually telling to my husband that he needs to protect me because there are bad men at the meetings where we go. And I'm like, ooh, you're brave. But so that you need to, but I knew that I could stand up to him. It's someone I know, and I knew that I could stand up to him. So it's true that sometimes it's difficult, but that's why we need allies, because someone should have seen that and say, that's not acceptable. Don't touch this woman, instead of me having to fence him for myself. So that's why we need men. We need you guys, because you can protect us. If I speak up, I'm crazy, I'm a bitch, excuse my French, I'm a whatever, everything else you want to say to a woman. If you do it, people are gonna listen to you. People are gonna be ashamed of themselves. So please become our allies and help us. That would be my